Hello, everybody, and welcome to the postseason edition of Season 5 for Controlled Chaos. In the studio, I am joined by Captain Dead Dad and I2 Ballistic for you, but he is currently eating food, so we won't be hearing anything from him. He will be eating food
Yep.
shortly. Yeah, so, uh, Captain, how you doing?
Oh, I'm just fine, man. How about you?
Doing great. Always love doing these controlled chaoses on the Hennessy Performance Racing League YouTube, and this one is going to be a treat, I feel like. So we can go ahead and move on to starting soon, apparently.
Oops. All right, we're going to the trucks.
Going to trucks.
Okay.
The first series was the truck series, and it was an entertaining one this season. It's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. Captain, I remember you had one moment where you almost incurred a gigantic penalty for interfering with lead lap cars,
We
but that was just
unfortunately
kind of
do
a
not.
microcosm of the entire season. It has been crazy from the beginning.
We will not discuss Pocono and what happened there.
Nope.
Not discuss Pokemon.
Unfortunate. Do not.
Well, we do have a lot of people in the truck series that are also in the chat, or in the studio, I guess you could say. We're going to get to them a little bit later, but go ahead and move on. We'll see our regular season champion, Captain Jack. He was able to get the regular season championship this season and gathered not too many playoff points to get above the cut line, plus 12, but it was enough to give himself the regular season championship. Captain, you've been around Jack a whole bunch this season. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, mainly it was just a bunch of consistency on his end. I mean, he had the most top fives out of everyone with 7, doubling second place for Sikkim. I mean, just a bunch of consistency, and he was actually able to get some wins this season, and definitely helped with Shake and Bake not being in the playoff or not being in the league for roughly half the season. Kind of helped him as well, but I would love to say he definitely deserved the regular season championship this season.
So he did too. He had 2 wins, 7 top fives, 2 stage wins, 3 poles, and only 1 penalty point, which is pretty impressive when you look down the list and see the other people with penalty points. So go on to the next one. We should be seeing the defending champion Shake and Bake here, and I mean double. He won the last 2 championships in the truck series. So Shake and Bake only 7 starts, and luckily enough, we have him up here in the studio. Shake, do you got a copy?
Oh, yes, I do.
Well, Shake, it's been a fantastic season for you. I mean, very abbreviated season, you could say, but you've gotten yourself 3 wins. That's top of the series, 5 top fives, 1 stage win, 1 pole, and already 16 playoff points. How are you feeling going into this postseason?
I feel great if we can get the first race of the playoffs out of the way. But other than that, it's been pretty solid. The races have been fairly clean, competitive. I'd say a lot more competitive than last season. There's just this one race, Pocono. There was this guy. He was just in the way of the battle, and it kind of screwed everything over.
Yeah, we do not talk about Pocono, according to Captain.
We will not be discussing Pocono.
Just no
Whatever
discussion.
may and or may not have happened at
It was very entertaining seeing you for those 7 races. I didn't really have you as the guy to win the Roval. I thought it was going to be Sikkim, but you came out there and surprised me. You kind of ran away with that one. So we do have Watkins Glen in the playoffs for the Truck Series, and a whole bunch of others, but that's one of those road courses. How are you feeling about your road course speed?
Oh, I like road courses. Pretty good at them. Charlotte was definitely wasn't a lucky win, but it kind of was at the same time. I'm confident at the Glen. I ran well there last year until I wrecked myself and just did terrible, but I finished third. The Yeah, it should be pretty good. I'm confident going into the Glen, whenever that is.
Well, hopefully
Oh,
you're confident. Hopefully you're
wait.
confident to get championship number 3. But what were you trying to say?
And I just have an early prediction for the Glen. I think Eric's Moose will win it, and he will carry that over and to win the championship.
That is
Oh man, that's a bold prediction right there. But Moose, if you're over there in the chat, go ahead and give your props to Shake. He has you winning Watkins Glen. But anyways, Shake, thank you for joining us up here. We wish you the best of luck this playoffs, and hopefully we see you in victory lane come Homestead Miami.
Oh yeah, thank you. I hope you will, but who knows?
That was Shake and Bake driver, the number 2 for GMS Hendrick in HPL. Let's move on to number 3, who should be Fire Slayer, one of the more experienced drivers in the field for the Truck Series. He hasn't been a big fan of how he's been treated on track, but he still sits above the cut line +3. Captain, that's your teammate. How's it going with Fire over there in the JGR camp?
It's certainly going. I mean, it seems like every week there's a new controversy between him and some other driver, but if he can just keep a level head, he should be fine in the playoffs. He most likely will end up making the Final Four. I don't want to place like 100% bets on it, but he's definitely one of the people that I would go, hey, most likely going to make it out of who is in the playoffs.
Yeah, and he is bringing along with him the momentum of 1 win from the regular season, 5 top 5s, and 5 playoff points. So Fire, always one guy to look out for. He's got experience on his side.
That's a
So
W.
that's a W.
Oh, sorry, I thought my mic was muted.
Moving on to number 4, and this should be Sikkim, the lone representative for Roush Fenway Kozlowski Racing in the playoffs for the Truck Series. Sikkim has been a great surprise this season. He had a lot of speed at some tracks we didn't really expect. At Pocono, he was right there in the top 5 most of the night, and he almost won. He pretty much dominated the Charlotte Roval. So, Captain, thoughts on Sikkim this postseason?
I mean, he definitely kind of shocked me, even throughout the regular season. He wasn't really a guy that I had pegged as being, I mean, probably a playoff driver, but not like top 4 playoff drivers once the playoffs started. I mean, going off his last season where he was up driver for a couple races, I knew there was like a bit of potential, but the ability to actually go as far as he is right now in the playoffs, I was kind of surprised. Good for him regardless.
Definitely good for him. One thing that's surprising is he's still winless. As good as his runs have been, he's been having a very Matt Kenseth 2003 type year thus far. He's just been getting good finishes, but not been able to throw it down into victory lane. So he has 4 top 5s, 2 stage wins, 2 playoff points, 25 penalties. So he's going to want to clean that up going into New Hampshire. Moving on to number 5, just below the cut line, it is, of course, the guy right up here with me, Captain Dead Dad.
Big man himself.
Yep, he got the 1 win. I believe it was at Gateway, correct?
Yes, it absolutely was at Gateway, and boy, am I glad that I won that, because had I not, I was definitely not returning next season.
You've had some bad luck at Gateway in the past. We remember what happened in, was it season 1 or season 2?
I remember what happened.
And it stuck with you for a while, but you were finally able to face those demons and get that win this year. But I want to talk more about the future. How confident are you that this team can get it done going into the postseason?
My team, personally, kind of confident. Vegas and Bristol are really the only 2 tracks that I'm like looking at, and I'm like, hey, yeah, pretty good chance there. Vegas, not really as much, but Bristol definitely circled there. But like between New Hampshire and the Glen, I couldn't tell you which one I'm worse at. Like if I'm up there for betting, you may as well not pick me. Pick whoever else there is.
You've got plenty of teammates to rely on for information in there with Fire Slayer and King Henry also in the playoffs with you. I believe that's the entire roster for the
Aside
for the
from the
Joe
four.
Gibbs guys. Aside for the 4. Yep. So Joe Gibbs, they're going to have a lot of information going into New Hampshire. Can they pull it off? Captain Dead Dad, only 3 under. King Henry, the other Joe Gibbs guy, other than Fire and Captain, is also 3 points below. And he has also not won. So just like Sikkim has not won this season thus far. But King Henry, he's definitely starting to get things done. He almost had a win at Charlotte, but just kind of left the bottom open.
Yeah, unfortunately, Charlotte was just one of those races where everyone was just wanting to run the bottom. If you got pushed up into the high line, that was it. Just hang it up. You're done for at least 10, 15 laps. But other than that, he's been just consistent all season, and that's pretty much been the name of the game for these guys that haven't gotten any of their wins yet. It's just consistency and not giving themselves penalties and whatnot.
Yep,
We have
5 top 5s, 3 DNFs. He's going to want to hope that the internet holds out for him and that he's able to finish these races, because you are not going to make it if you can't finish the races. And 3 stage wins, 2 poles, and 3 playoff points. Moving on to number 7, this should be always Freedom. Chip Ganassi, Richard Childress Racing for Brody's team. He is 5 points below. And Freedom, we've seen him in the Cup Series before. He's had speed, and he's had speed this season, but just hasn't been able to really pay it off. Also winless, but he is showing why he deserves to be in the top 10.
I mean, Freedom is definitely a top 10 driver out of, the rest of the truck field, but I don't really tend to see him a whole lot on track. He's either way ahead of me or way behind. I'm not going to call him the least consistent, but definitely one of the, I guess, lesser consistent drivers for the whole season. I mean, he's found his way into the playoffs, so I can't really get him on that, but
Yeah, he has the fifth least amount of points penalties in the field. So he's been keeping it clean for the most part. We know Freedom is not one guy to ship people to Africa and try to wreck them, but Freedom, I think he has the speed. I think he's good at the 1.5 miles. So if he can get himself to Homestead, gotta look out for him. Moving on to number 8. This is Crab. Crab has had a very interesting season thus far for Penske Racing. 7 points below the cut. And his one win at Talladega, a little bit controversial, but got it done nevertheless. He is also in the playoffs. What is your thoughts on that, Captain?
yeah, the fan favorite of the Truck Series, at least heading into the playoffs. I mean, his win at Talladega was certainly something, and there are plenty of arguments in the JGR Discord over what actually happened that race, but definitely really controversial win at Talladega between the 8 car of Sikkim, or 8 truck of Sikkim, kind of just taking out the entire field behind him. He's just mired in controversy.
Yeah, that might be the one thing holding him back. He has speed. We've seen it multiple times, but he's not afraid to lay the bumper to somebody if they're in the way and move them out of the groove. Just not gonna get it done if you're not making a lot of friends out there. But Crab, he's looking to make it a Penske Racing Truck Series title if he can get there. Crab ass. That's Terrorist in 9th. He's also part of that Penske Racing stable, 9 points below. And I remember seeing this name at the beginning of the season before anything had really transpired and he was even signed to a car. I thought this guy was going to be a developmental driver that stayed probably in like free agency. But Terrace got picked up by Penske and he has been on a roll. being able to put together some good runs, get himself into the playoffs.
Yeah, Penske has really just kind of become a home to those drivers who you really wouldn't think would get a ride, and they've just picked them up and said, "Hey, get driving." And I mean, they've come out and proven that they can actually drive, and shown that they deserve to be more than just a free agent. And Harris has done a pretty decent job. Only 3 top fives this season, but as far as I remember, he's typically at least a top 10 finisher.
Yeah, a lot of penalty points there, along with his teammate in Crab. But Terrorist is in the playoffs, and he will have a chance at a title. And here's what I would say is probably the fan favorite, Eric's Moose. After getting it done, because Dank wasn't able to make it at the Charlotte Roval, he was able to take one of the spots in the top 10 and make it into the Truck Series postseason. Eric's, he has had a good season so far, and you heard it from Shake a little bit earlier when we were interviewing him. He says that Eric's is going to win at Watkins Glen. Now, Captain, I know that Eric's is due for a win, but do you think it would be a high-profile one like the Glen?
I actually have no real clue how good he is at the Glen. I mean, I'm not really one to go out and practice, but from what I have heard, he has been putting down the laps and he's been going as hard as he can to try and get himself that win. I mean, just earlier today, he was practicing at New Hampshire with Shake and Bake and Sikkim, so we could see a sneaky win come out of him in the playoffs and get himself locked into the Final Four.
Certainly have to hope so. He has been one of the cleaner guys. I don't think he has a top 5 yet, which is just kind of surprising to me.
He
Maybe he got it at the Roval, but
he
didn't
does
get it
not.
there. He did not get a top 5, but that's definitely coming because he has had an entire season of experience under his wing, and he is going to be looking to carry his momentum from the regular season into the playoffs.
Well, if we go back to last season at the Glen, it was in the playoffs. Eric Smoose was running, I believe, second. I forgot who he was battling with. So he does have the pace at the Glen. But he ended up finishing P4 because he got sent down pit road. But yeah, he even though he doesn't have any of the top fives or the standout finishes, he's one of the most consistent drivers I feel like in the series. If everything goes his way and he doesn't get wrecked or lagged or whatever. But yeah, he'll definitely be a contender come to these playoffs.
That's very well said from a past champion. You would know better than any of us because I think it was probably Tiger that Harris was going against last season, if memory serves me correctly, and he was up there. He was battling him. So Moose, yeah, he has the talent on the road courses and other
It
tracks,
was
not the luck.
it was the 10 of Jackson Altman.
Oh, okay. There you go. I'll have to review some of that footage back because I thought it was Tiger. But anyways, here is your overview of the playoffs. Obviously, there are the points as they reset going into the playoffs and the tracks we go to: New Hampshire, Las Vegas, Watkins Glen, Bristol, and the championship race at Homestead. So that is your Truck Series playoffs.
Moving on to Xfinity.
Moving on to Xfinity.
Yes, sir.
And possibly oh man, I already see where there's a little bit of space on the left with.
My bad.
There you go. All right.
Look on the flag.
The Busch Grand National Division, otherwise known as the Xfinity Series, has been a subject of a lot of controversy this season. This is one that Ballstick had to drop out of because he didn't like the racing. And I guess I'm just going to go straight to you on that one, Dylan. Like,
Well,
what was it about the Xfinity Series that was just a little too much?
so throughout the season, from my perspective, there's not much respect down there. It's kind of where people are trying to find their stride still, but a lot of guys are pretty quick, but at the same time, they don't know when a good time to pass is, I should say. There are certain people in there. I'm not going to name any sort of names because I don't feel like being confronted by them later. But there's a lack of respect. It's kind of like watching a 40 car field of Ty Gibbs in real life and stuff like that. I left this series originally because of Michigan. Um, I was unhappy basically the entire season. I'm not going to lie with that, and I'm not going to make this a little sob story. So we'll get this done as ASAP. It just wasn't fun. It really just wasn't a fun time. Feeling somewhat quick at tracks that I enjoy, but then getting wrecked, which I feel like is just the name of the game when it comes down to the Xfinity Series. You have to be up front the majority of the time, although in some cases when you are up front, you can't escape. So there's that. But moving on. Actually,
Yeah,
Kat, would you like to say anything?
yeah, just to kind of like echo what you were saying, it does seem like the Xfinity series has just essentially become the new developmental series, with the truck series kind of becoming like the, oh hey, I've been here a couple seasons, I kind of just want to relax. Even in my small sample of Talladega, which I should have expected to be a wreckfest, and it wasn't awful, but it definitely, a lot of people in there do need to learn respect and kind of figure out what they're doing during league racing, or else they're not really going to have too many friends out on track.
Yeah, that's what I've kind of noticed as well. The Xfinity Series, like you said, it seems more of like the developmental series at the moment. The Cup Series is kind of where drivers think they're in their prime, except like a few exceptions like myself. I'm just there to escape the developmental series and getting wrecked, and then I see the Truck Series just being the chill series. Like, yeah, there's still stuff that happens down there, stuff like that. Like, there are still controversies, there are still penalties down there, but for the most part, that's probably one of the most. They have some of the most respectful races, I'd have to say, as well, depending on where it is, of course. But moving on, we're gonna get started here with the driver lineup for the playoffs with the regular season champion of the Heredia God, Jim.
Yep, this man needs no introduction, and he's also in the studio with us. Heredia, you got a copy?
Yes, I do have a copy.
Going on, man. Regular season champion. It's just another day in the office for you. You're a two-time Cup champion and looking to be a first-time Xfinity champion. What is it going to take?
I'm not sure. I think maybe some luck on my side. I know Xfinity is kind of where, as you say, the crackheads are at. But they're fun crackheads. I mean, there has been races this season where it's been kind of more the hectic side, but I mean, throughout the season, I mean, it's been pretty good races. And I started seeing the really fun races. I think towards the middle, everyone just got really aggressive and just lost the point of what's league racing and started being like crazy. I did too, but we learned, and I think that the racing has got better for since Michigan. I think the racing has gone a little better, a little cleaner, little cleanups here and there. That's an improvement in my opinion, which maybe not as good as Trekker Cup, but like it's fine. I mean, it's whatever you guys want to race at, wherever you guys feel comfortable at. If just too many records in Xfinity or not, it's whatever. Uh, as it's the first time here for Xfinity, I mean, it's a new challenge. I haven't really done Xfinity like that, and I want to try something different for the season. And so far, I'm having some good luck. I had some couple race wins up here and there, but it's just you have to learn here. It's not Cup, it's Xfinity, and new competitions like Teen Titan, other people like Speed, and yeah, just I'm learning as well. I hope I can get some luck. Jackson's winning the championship. That's all I got to say. And
Okay.
bam.
Well, that's a true team player right there. But I did kind of want to circle back with you on that whole deal about Xfinity versus Cup. You were dominant. I mean, dominant in the Cup series. You pretty much owned it. You and Joker owned that series. Fist came onto the scene a little bit later. But what made you really want to go down to the Xfinity series opposed to staying in the Cup?
I was originally going to stay Cup for another season, but I really had doubts. I really just like want to try something different. I really wanted to try Xfinity. I know everyone's asking if I was staying Cup or not. I was, but then I was just like, nah. You know what? Let me try Xfinity for one season. See how give it a go. For a whole season. And I was gonna like go back up to Cup for how like really, mediocre races were at first, but I stuck it out, and I'm just enjoying my time now in Xfinity. I'm just cruising, riding, uh, and now I'm in the playoffs and fighting for a championship. Hopefully, I can be a champion in Xfinity. You never know.
I would say you'd be enjoying it. You got 5 wins already in that series, so that's Heredia right there. Regular season champion looking to win the championship this season, season 5 in the Xfinity series. Heredia, thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll move on. Yeah, Heredia had the plus 38 point lead from a very good regular season. JoJo, that's driver for Stewart Haas Racing, plus 13, just like his number. He has had a good season, and he's right in the shadow of Heredia most races, but just hasn't been able to get as many wins as Heredia. He's got those 2 wins, 8 top 5s, 2 stage wins, 14 starts. That's 1 less than Heredia, but JoJo, he's having a good season. What's it going to take to beat Heredia?
It's going to take a lot, to say the least. Heredia is one of the fastest guys I've ever seen on this game, in all honesty. And I've been on this game since release. It's going to take quite a bit of luck as well as it will for Heredia. Just need to stay consistent throughout this postseason. Because once you get back in the back of the pack, or even just in the middle of the pack, it's a hornet's nest in there. So as long as you keep your car clean, as long as you keep it up front, you should be able to have a pretty decent postseason. So that's really what I think about it. I don't really have much of an opinion about any sort of playoff racing, but
Is 13 points safe to you?
No, not at all. In all honesty, I don't even think 38 is enough to feel like you're safe, because you never know what happens down here. You never know where you're gonna have a guy below the cut line all of a sudden win, because with these tracks coming up, they vary in skill level, and they vary in, of course, what's it called, layout. So you might have some guys better at a short track, better at a road course, but I do believe Heredia is the guy to beat. And then close second was JoJo. And like, without a doubt in my mind, these 2 guys will make it to the Final Four.
These 2 guys have Cup experience too. You have to believe that gives them a little bit of an edge. JoJo drove the 20 last season. Of course, Heredia drove the number 2 for Penske, winning that championship.
Cap, over to you if you want to say anything.
I didn't hear you, sorry. I kind of like JoJo's chances. I would say JoJo's probably safe with the plus 13, given that he's probably one of the few guys that if you wreck him, he will come back for you. There is no getting around that whatsoever. JoJo is one of those guys that will not take shit at all. So, even with my extremely limited interactions with him through other leagues, I would definitely say he's got a pretty decent chance at least locking himself in on points, if not locking himself in on a win to go to Homestead.
Gotcha. So the upcoming tracks we have, which is why I mentioned this, we have Iowa, the first race, Darlington second, Watkins Glen third, New Hampshire fourth, and Homestead as the championship race. Like I mentioned, these tracks vary when you go from Iowa to Darlington, where track can be as slick as possible when you go over to Darlington and stuff like that, over to the Glen, and then finally New Hampshire to round that out in the first 4 rounds. We're going to move on to a driver who has bounced in and out of rides, who is also joining us here in the booth. Electric, what's up, buddy? if you got a copy with us. Electric.
I don't think he
There
did
you are.
that.
There he is.
Yo,
So,
what's up?
man, how are you?
Not too good. Not too good.
Gotcha. So continuing here, how do you think your chances are when you think about getting to the championship four?
Well, start of the season, I mean, nobody had me even in the playoffs. I felt like that was personally disrespectful, and I had to take that personally. So, um, I went out, get a win, and then I managed to get more and more points and finished in the top three in points. Did the best that I could, but if anything, I possibly be able to make it to the top four. I mean, it's all up to what these drivers think of me and what I'm able to do on these next tracks that I'm able to race at.
Gotcha, man. Jimmy, you have any questions for him? Cat, maybe?
Now I'll start here. Electric, it's been a very, very crazy, crazy season for you. It seems a lot of controversy surrounding what happened last week. I know you don't want to talk about it at what happened at Talladega,
You can
but
talk about it.
it's gonna cost one race at Iowa. Are you seeing any other tracks right there? I think it's still winning you're into the final round, if I'm not mistaken.
I marked two tracks. Darlington. As soon as I come right back, I'm a I'm gonna try my hardest. I'm not letting anything up no more. I feel like this is other than JoJo and Heredia. They are the only two that can possibly stop me from winning a race, especially at Darlington and New Hampshire. I feel like that will be the chances that I'll be able to show up and explode. I really don't have any others. I feel like the Glen, we just have to stay consistent. Like what I've been able to do from when I fell back from Charlotte in points to ninth and get right back up to third. I mean, that's all I have to do is just stay consistent in the top four in order to make it. And I feel like if we be able to squeeze out a win with tire saving or fuel saving being on my side for once, I feel like I'll be able to get inside the top four and show what people I'm able to do.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I was your teammate there at JGR for a little while, so I really do hope you succeed. I want you to make the championship four. I want you to have a good rest of the season. So go get them.
That is the right mentality to have. Just take what's given to you and make. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm trying to say something positive here, but I'm so
Something
tired.
inspirational.
I'm so tired. Just roll through the punches. Really, it's really what Electric, I believe, was getting to there. Just have to overcome anything that comes at you like that with the penalty and stuff like that. It is very unfortunate to see that it happened. I do see him able to be bouncing back after that one. It'll be quite a bit. That is without a doubt. It'll take a lot. But I went back over the rule book, and it is winning in. So even if he does somehow drop really far behind, all he has to do is win a race before Homestead, and that'll lock him into the final four. Thank you for your time, Electric. It's very nice having you two as an Electric and Heredia in the booth with us to give us your kind of point of views. But moving on, we have 10 Titan for life. Jim?
Yeah, Titan coming off that win at Talladega. It was an exciting one. He went to the wall, thought he was going to flip over and do barrel rolls on the front stretch. But nope, he was able to get the win, and that win actually got him above the cutoff line. You see right there, +4. It's another driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. 10 Titan. He was very fast when he came into the series. Looks like it was 12 races ago, so the least amount in the playoffs. Most people have 14, 13, but 10 Titan, only 12 races in, was able to make the playoffs, and on top of that, 2 wins on the season.
Yeah, and I find that
Yeah.
that's the. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna go. I'm sorry, Cap. But with 10 Titan, he's having a bit of a breakout season for himself. Last season, he entered the Xfinity Series quite late, I think. And I don't believe he won at all last season after joining late. But with these 12 starts, he has 4 top 5s. He has only 1 DNF, which also hurts a lot. But those 2 wins have propelled him up and over 6 other drivers in the playoffs, which is kind of insane. He's got a good amount of playoff points with him. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I got to say about it. Kat, what do you think?
Titan is definitely one of the Xfinity drivers that have kind of earned his place this season. He's definitely shown himself out and really just paraded around why he deserves to be here and be part of JGR. Just overall, one of the better Xfinity drivers we have, barring Soaps, but we unfortunately have had a lot happen to Soaps lately. So, I mean, Titan definitely deserves a spot. I kind of hope he makes it into the Final Four. I feel like he could definitely put on a pretty good show at Homestead.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
definitely. Going on top of that, I just think this schedule looks great for him. He is a short track ace. I mean, we saw it at Martinsville. We saw it at Richmond. This guy is fast at the short tracks. And you got Iowa. I won't say Darlington is a short track, but it behaves like a short track. It has moments where it behaves like a short track. New Hampshire is pretty much just a 1 mile version of Martinsville. So Titan, look out, man. He might just make it to the Champ 4, and he might just steal the championship away from the heavyweights.
All right. As we will be trying to move on to the next guy in line, Killer XL, who has recently taken over the 11 car after my departure from the Xfinity Series. Certified Daniel Hemrick fan. -4 below the cut line. So, Jim, would you like to take this one away as well?
Sure. Well, I first want to say it has no correlation with NASCAR, but shout out to Frank. Frank is Killer XL. On his win at Circuit des Villeneuve in Montreal in the F1 series, he got that win over Eric and a whole bunch of good cast of drivers. But going back to the Xfinity series, this guy's for real. I've seen him race for well over 2 years now, 2 full calendar years, and he is fast enough to be a cup driver, in my opinion. He's lost a little interest in the game, as we all have, but he is fast, and I mean, he might be winless now, but when you put pressure on Frank, he usually turns those pressure points into diamonds. He is a fantastic driver that will be able to put on a show for y'all.
I agree.
Captain?
Yeah, definitely. Killer is definitely one of those people who you kind of expect to just be up front now. I mean, going back to when I first joined that Gateway race, he was top 5 most of the time, and that's really the only time I can remember him, but he managed to sneak himself into a win after that incident. And unfortunately, he did kind of get snubbed out of the playoffs for that season, but he's definitely kind of just gone out and proven himself in everything he's running.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Being Frank's teammate throughout the season, I believe he's had some of the worst luck, even though he is 5th in the playoff standings at the moment. I do think he's had some pretty bad luck compared to what he's had in previous seasons. With how just getting collected in wrecks is one of those unlucky parts of any sort of race, especially in the Xfinity Series, which is very unfortunate. But we move, and Frank is one of the OGs, from what I understand. He's been here longer than I have, I can tell you that much.
Same.
Anything else from you two, or do you think
I'm good.
be all good to move on?
We're good to move on.
All right.
Good luck to him in the playoffs.
Coming up as our 6th driver in the playoff standings, we have Jackson Altman in the 36 car for Penske Racing. Jackson's pretty quick, whether it comes down to heat or F1. He's just as the more that time goes on that I've known Jackson, he has gotten better and better each season. Jim or Cap?
No doubt. He's gotten a lot better, and I'm telling you what's really helped him is that alliance with Penske and the Heredia God. That right there. I don't know if Heredia is giving out setups and helping Jackson get faster, but you can tell. I remember watching Kentucky and thinking, these Penske cars are just glued to the track. There is no beating them. JoJo was the only one that was really close. He was driving his tail off to stay with them. But Jackson, I mean, he's had chances at wins since season 3, and he just always seems like something happens, either fuel mileage or maybe a car falling off. It just hasn't really come together for him, but he's still looking for that first win this season.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee that he's one of those people who you expect to see up front. I can almost also guarantee that Heredia is sending him his setups. But I think the one thing that's going to get him is he is a really aggressive driver. I mean, I unfortunately can't see how many points he's lost to penalties, but looking at his 6 penalty points, I mean, if there's anything that's going to stop him from winning or getting himself locked into the Final Four, it's going to be the fact that he's just too aggressive. I feel like he needs to kind of press on the brakes a little bit, try and relax, get the good finishes, and just try not to make too many enemies heading to Homestead.
I would have to agree with you there. And his team owner, Heredia, is still in this holler chat that we have here. Would you like to say anything about Jackson, Heredia? If we got a copy?
Yeah, was it about Jackson?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was about to do some important business in the toilet, but you guys interrupted my business. But it's okay. I'll talk about Jackson. Yeah. As a driver for Team Penske for the last 2 seasons since season 4, I'm glad to have him on my team, and I'm happy to see his improvement to be, in my opinion, a top 5 driver in experiences, even a championship contender, if his luck plays out to his hands, which I know he hasn't had the best luck as he got kind of screwed up 2 wins, but to be the point, I mean, I'm glad that he's racing still. I'm glad that he's still here on my team. I know he wanted to call quits sometimes during the season, but I'm happy he's here, happy that he's improving, happy that he's willing to improve with me. So yeah, I'm happy that he's doing well. Now I'm gonna go do my duty.
All right, you can go ahead and do that. Thank you for the words for Jackson, giving us another perspective on him. As I believe we can move on over to our 7th place driver, Speed Triple O Racer for Joe Gibbs Racing. After Speed as well is pretty quick, but like we've mentioned about the Xfinity Series, it's really just the decision making with this whole series is kind of their downfall. Between that controversial finish at Michigan with the block on Jackson, but other than that, he's had a pretty decent season. Made the playoffs, only 6 down, 5 playoff points, a win at Michigan, and 6 top 10s, which is the 3rd most in the series. But with 9 penalty points.
Mm-hmm.
So with the aggression, there comes a trade-off of the penalty points if you cause anything bad. And you two are both teammates with him. How do you guys feel about Speed right now? His chances.
I was teammates with him, but he was
but
actually a pretty good teammate. Masopes would not have you believe that. Masopes doesn't believe that, but I thought that Speed was a great teammate. I thought that he brought a lot of intangibles to JGR, and even though he's been at a lot of teams, especially between JRM and JGR, I really did enjoy having him as a teammate. Now, in the Xfinity series, he has been wrapped up in a lot, and I mean a lot of controversy. So he's going to have to get that cleared up. Hopefully, people aren't going to cash in on some revenge in the postseason and knock him out, because he does have the speed every single week to be running up front.
Yeah, Speed has definitely got the speed to be up front and lock himself into Homestead, at least in one of these upcoming tracks. But those penalties have really just been his Achilles heel. Without them, I think he wouldn't be in a wild card spot had he not gotten any penalties. But with what you said about Michigan and every other incident he's had, he's going to need to try and hope that people don't come after him during the playoffs because it could end pretty bad for him. And it's just kind of unfortunate, but he kind of set himself up for it.
I'm glad you were able to give us that perspective, being his teammate. And you guys have been teammates for a pretty long time, I believe, with this JGR alliance you guys got going on. And I believe there's some history, probably even before then, because I've known Speed for a while, and if I've known Speed for a while, I know others have as well. But
This is the first season he's made as his teammate,
what? Oh, well,
I think.
maybe, but
Last season I was with CGR. I don't think he was on CGR that
true.
season, though.
I still think you were in JGR, but anyway, I
He's further away.
honestly see Speed and a few other of these guys kind of like Ross Chastain in a way. Pretty quick,
Mm-hmm.
but they use the bumper quite a bit. They get into people quite a bit, and that's really just the Xfinity Series as a whole. Not just a shot at Speed. We like Speed. Speed is a cool guy.
Let's just say Speed is in the right car number for how he acts on racetracks sometimes. That
True.
is definitely a
Very
Ty Gibbs
fitting.
type of driver. He is very fast. He'll win sometimes if he doesn't get shipped by a JRM driver. But I mean, just gonna have to clean it up a little bit, and he'll have a shot at a title.
Yeah, as long as Speed can stay consistent and can keep a level head, they'll be pretty alright, I do believe. And as we will move on to our 8th person on this list, another Penske driver. Person 10-10-11. 7 points back in the 92 car for Penske Racing. Me and him have had like an argument during the race day, but we will not get into that at all. Just typical Xfinity stuff. He's a pretty quick driver, but like I've said time and time again, there's no respect between many of them. It's like the developmental series in a way, like Cap said earlier. That's just how it goes. That's the way of the road. You two. What we got?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. He doesn't have any wins, and he only has 3 top 5s out of his 14 starts. You wouldn't believe that when you watch him on race day, because he is usually in the top 5, just running back there behind Heredia and JoJo, kind of biding his time. He's found a lot of speed this season. That Penske Alliance has definitely helped him out, but he was fast before that. I remember in previous leagues, other leagues than HBL, he had speed. So, person. He's a sneaky one. He could win the championship.
Yeah, Person is definitely another one of those people where you're kind of like, wow, really him for a ride? But he definitely has some pace, but it's, once again, just he needs to keep a level head. And with my experience I've had with him in other leagues, as you mentioned, keeping a level head has been the number one thing that has kept him down. And hopefully, again, it doesn't come back to bite him in the ass, but like, everybody that's in the Xfinity Series playoffs just needs to keep a cool head. They all need to just relax and just focus.
I would have to agree with that. That is the key to racing in the Xfinity Series at all. Is to just stay calm, stay cool, don't try to explode on anybody in the race chat, because it probably won't. It'll probably be pretty funny, but won't end well for either of you guys most likely, especially if you get into it on the track itself. But yeah, Person, quick guy, but like we mentioned, just needs to keep a level head, or else things might go south. Moving on, 9th driver in the playoffs, we have McCarty, the 8 fan, who is in the playoffs time and time again for as long as I can remember. He is a very consistent driver. Jim, Cap, thoughts?
Yeah, Cap, you go ahead first.
Yeah, McCard is. I mean, he's been around ever since I've been in Tennessee, from what I remember, and I think every season I've been around, he's at least made an appearance in the playoffs. Uh, Having not raced in the Xfinity Series, it's kind of hard to speak on some of these people, but just looking at it, one pole and 4 top 5s, he's got the speed, but 4 top 5s is not going to get you all the way to Homestead. It's going to take something short of a miracle if he wants to get into the playoffs. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be bad at any of the upcoming tracks. Darlington, from what I've heard, is one of his favored tracks, but it's just kind of hard for me to say anything good for not having driven around him at all.
It's a fair enough point right there. That's kind of why I also wasn't commenting on the truck stuff. An update: I still haven't eaten, so
Yeah.
I'm a bit out of it.
Well, after Xfinity, after you get through Xfinity, you can go ahead and eat. Just bring your food in, mute yourself, and just keep skipping through.
We can take a small intermission.
But about McCard, I've seen this guy drive all 3 different series. He drove the trucks in another league. He drove Xfinity for as long as I can remember, and I also remember him driving the 9 car in the Cup Series for HPL. I think that was season 4, maybe it was season 3. But McCard's fast, and that JRM alliance is very, very good for him. And these tracks that come up are also pretty good for him. Like you said, Darlington, that's a really good one. Iowa, I feel like that's one he'll excel at. I think he's just been waiting for his moment. There's been a lot of game of punt, and he's not one to really take advantage of games of punt. He might give a bumper, but it won't usually give him any extra spots. He'll usually just get punted out of the way as well. So if we can get some long runs, we can see McCard actually demonstrate how good he is. That 8-point deficit is going to turn into a 0-point deficit very quickly.
I do see that. The Xfinity Series is a game of punt at most intermediates. If it's anything like we've seen before, Darlington might be a bit of a mess. I'm going to be honest, New Hampshire, but nonetheless, it will be extremely entertaining to watch. I'll say so myself.
Definitely, and shout out McCard's Vols. Gotta
Yes,
give them their props.
Shout out to Tennessee Vols. They're beating Alabama this past week. While the goalposts were laid to rest in the nearby river.
The Tennessee River.
Prayers up.
Apparently that's a tradition of theirs. I don't know how, but I feel like you'd want to cut up those pieces and sell them on eBay.
It was due. They haven't beaten Alabama in 15 or 16 years. It was due. Those goalposts are now laid to rest, as we will.
I'm just glad Alabama lost.
True, me too.
As an Ohio State fan, I am glad. Means we are number 2 so far.
As an anyone but Alabama fan, I would have to agree. Moving on. Logan Aim 06 for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. I will say this about Logan. He had a very slow start to the beginning of the season. And I mean extremely slow start. He was not anywhere close to the front in most of those races. But he found his stride, and he made it to the playoffs. He is 9 behind with 3 top 5s, 3 penalty points, 3 DNFs, which killed him in the beginning of the season. That is what I mean by that. And only 13 starts. So, after being consistent after those unfortunate DNFs, he found something, and he found his stride. He got some help. And here he is, 10th position in the Xfinity Series playoffs. Jim, Cap, anything?
Yeah, it's impressive. He's one of those guys. There's times you see him up front, but usually he's very silent through a race. He gets the finish that he deserves, gets some stage points that are much needed, and that was just enough to get him into the playoffs. I'm amazed looking at the standings. everyone under the cut line, right there, -9. That's the last place. So the spread is +38 from Heredia to -9 to Logan. This Xfinity series is very close, and just about anything can happen. So Logan, he has just as good a shot to make it into the championship four as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not one of those cases where I haven't really driven with
Mhm.
them, so it's kind of hard for me to say anything for certain. But going just off what you guys said, he's kind of sounding like one of the more quiet but consistent people. If you can consistently get points every stage and have a consistently good finish every race, that's going to be kind of your ticket, especially in Xfinity, to get to Homestead.
Yes, I would have to agree with that. Logan, like I mentioned, had a very slow start, but he found his stride and he has not turned back. He has gotten very quick throughout the season, which is pretty interesting to see, honestly. You don't really see that from many guys, especially that at this point. You don't really see those guys who will just randomly and as he's in the chat, 3 DNF flagouts hurt your points. Indeed, they did.
Yes,
But
they do.
you bounce back, Logan. We love to see this happen with drivers, especially after that. Something we hope to see with Electric. But we'll just have to let the playoffs roll out as we will go to the overview. We have Iowa, Darlington, Watkins Glen, New Hampshire, then Homestead, Miami Speedway. As you can see on the right side, the full playoffs graphic. Like Jim mentioned, it is a very small spread. With Heredia being honestly an outlier, with 38 points down to -9, or at least 9 behind that cut line. So you guys want to move on to Cup?
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
All right, cool. So coming over to here, going to Cup. All right, move that. Here we are.
All right. Yep, here we are. The Cup Series, the Premier Series in the Hennessy Performance Racing League on NASCAR Heat 5. This is pretty much where you had your, I would say, your cleanest racing. I don't know if that's entirely true. Truck Series had some clean races, but the Cup Series, it's been a pretty dominant effort from one guy, and that's Fistbuster. He has been lights out the entire season.
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very little of a shocker that Fistbuster is the guy that got the regular season championship. I mean, he's the guy that has beat Joker and Chippy just race in and race out with his 8 wins, 11 top fives, 11 stage wins, more than anybody else in the field. Even going to polls, he has 5 as opposed to Joker and Chippy's 2. Like I said, it comes to little surprise that Fistbuster is the one that got the regular season championship, and if he's not circled as the champion for this season on your whatever you guys may do, you're wrong. Call it biased as, a JGR driver, but he is 100% the favorite for the championship this season after getting snubbed last season by Heredia.
That's where all of that anger really came from. He came over from HMS. I don't know if he liked it at HMS or not. I doubt he had too many gripes about what happened, but he has had it out for everybody in the Cup Series to beat everybody at all costs because of what happened last season. He had so many races he could have won in season 4. I think of Chicagoland. I think it was Richmond. There was one time, or maybe it was Dover. I forgot which one it was, but he had a bunch of races that he was snubbed from late race cautions or whatnot, and he has completely put his fist down on the field this season, getting himself those 8 wins, 51 playoff points.
As we are joined by the one and only always Joker. How are you doing tonight, bud?
Everything's great.
Looking forward to get back in your race car?
Or to get back out on the track in Las Vegas.
At Dover, yeah.
Yeah, well, go ahead and move on to the next one, because ironically,
amazing
ironically,
oh,
always Joker. There he is, Hendrick Motorsports +5 on the cut line, you're a former champion of this series, and it seems like you have put together a pretty good season so far here in season 5, but not quite to your standards. What really hasn't gone right for you compared to prior seasons?
I mean, I think I'd have to say mainly lag issues. I feel like I've lost over 100 points just due to lag issues or just not luck going my way. You know, missed out on about 15 at Iowa with the fuel mileage situation. Lost another 15 at Phoenix when I actually lagged out. Auto Club, I lagged. Daytona, but you know, this is not the best season. But you know, with this format, I'll say it forever. I hate it, but with how the season has gone, this format benefits me a lot, and just making it to the final round, and then there's that mental reset. So that's what will be interesting to see.
Definitely will be. And as the pretty much the head part of Hendrick Motorsports, just go through with me and tell me how proud you are of your team this season.
Yeah, you know, obviously in the Cup Series, I expected Sharp to make the playoffs, but you know, obviously him lagging out, can't really get mad at him or be down about him for that because he still tied with the cut line with 4 DNFs, right? So can't really be mad at that. Ghost, you know, he'll be consistent as ever. In Xfinity, I'm happy that Electric and Ackard made it. They've been 2 pretty consistent guys. Riley would have made it if, you know, he didn't stop racing because he got that win at Iowa. And then Jamie Wright was also in the mix as well. He was in the top 8 for majority of the season. And then, you know, obviously with the truck program, Shake, 2-time defending champ, I think. Yeah. Been so long. But yeah, and then Moose making it was good. Dank not making it really. I'm not mad at Dank because he missed out and he missed 3 races out of something out of his control. So I think it's been a good season. Just kind of wish that the drivers that we had to start the season were still here, right? So.
Oh yeah, I bet there's a lot of organizations that agree with you on that one. Captain, you got any questions for Joker?
He said he would be away for about a few minutes.
Oh, okay, yeah, Dylan, you go ahead then.
I don't really have much to say, man. You've had a pretty good season, by my standards at least. I don't really have good seasons, but it's how many wins do you feel like were taken away during this season? Just it's like trouble and bad luck that you were in.
I hate to open up that can of worms, but I don't want to ignore the question. So I think 3. I think definitely like 3. You know, Sonoma for obvious reasons. Iowa is another one, and then Richmond. I feel like I had a good car, and then the whole incident with the 18 that I've just been reminded of put me in the back. So those are the 3 that I can think of right off the top of my head without doing a pretty big dive. Phoenix as well if I didn't lag out. Yeah, I feel like those are the gateway as well. But, you know, obviously you can't play the what-if game forever, and it just the whole regular season has led up to this point. So.
Gotcha, man. Thank you for answering that question there, as we've also been joined by another Cup driver. Dalator, would you like to say anything?
Quote-unquote Cup driver.
Well,
You are in the Cup Series. You do not say quote unquote.
I think I win the award for the most 15th place finishes of the year.
I mean, did he leave?
Nope,
Was that a hitter and quitter? Oh.
That's already.
Okay.
We're good.
Not me.
Who has a tornado siren going? Okay, never mind, Chibi. Anyway, moving
I came
on.
to party.
Moving on to our next driver, who is third, also tied for points with Joker. Driver of the 6, YB Beta for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. Thoughts?
Fast. Just fast. This screenshot right here, I was in charge of taking these screenshots. That's from Pocono, obviously, because the car was always focused on him, or the camera was always focused on that 6 car. He was unstoppable. And there aren't a lot of tracks that are like Pocono, but when you look at YB's, when you look at where he's been running most of the races, it's usually in the top 5. He's in the right spot right there in third in points, and he's only had 12 starts. So this is definitely a good pick for an upset in the championship battle, and I think you'll definitely see him at Homestead.
Joker, would you like to speak?
I mean, yeah, right. Me and him have had a few incidents that I've also just been reminded of now. So thank you for that. But yeah, he's a good driver. Interested to see where he goes for the draft mainly. That's my thing. But still a good driver. He's one guy that you don't really. I feel like there's a bunch of guys in this Cup Series that you don't really want in the Final Four if you're a competitor, and he's one of them in that group. I feel like he's been a top 4 driver all season long, and he can win anywhere.
Gotcha, man. Dalator,
He's a sleeper,
sleeper pick.
you know, absolutely. Because you don't think of him as one of the quicker guys because no one thinks anybody from Roush is quick. Secondly, you got a guy who is pretty new to the league. He comes in, he's done what he's done. He won Pocono. He's been fast just about everywhere else, has had bad luck. So if he can, get that golden horseshoe on his side, he's got a good chance to contend for a championship. Because I'm not going to bank it on the 18 winning it this year. I mean, he's been exceptionally good, almost nauseatingly so. But, the playoffs bring out a different type of personality in a lot of people. And I think that YB Beta might be one of those guys that turns a wick up.
Gotcha, man.
Yeah, I would say he's well on his way to getting to that championship 4, and just telling you from prior experience in other leagues and 1v1s with this guy, he is just very fast, very, very fast. And also, do not notice that I spelled Keselowski wrong.
Nice. Yeah, from what I've seen so far with YB, he's very fast. I'm going to be honest, I haven't tuned in much, but from what I've seen, from the little bits and pieces that I have seen, he has been up front, and he has been hard to catch once he gets that lead. But usually, whenever he is in that lead, I believe a caution comes out. But
he was the crown jewel of Roush Fenway Keselowski this year.
That is a true statement.
Not hard to say.
No. And moving on to quite a familiar face who's also joining us here in the booth. In the 4th spot for playoffs, we have Big Jim for Stewart Haas Racing in the number 10 car, +4 above the cut. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the current playoff situation for you, bud? Do you feel like you'll have that shot to keep your Final 4 spot there? Or, oh, see you later.
Yeah, I had, I couldn't really tell you because just a couple weeks ago I was thinking about full-on retirement. And then I got this call up from a certain somebody that wanted to say, hey, you want to drive a 10-car at Martinsville for me? I was like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. I don't want to take over the 11 car and not do any races other than Martinsville and hurt them for points. So I jumped over to Stewart Haas, and they provided rocket ships, especially at Paperclip.
Dalthor. Elaborate.
I mean, what can I say? Took me a couple steak dinners, but here I got myself a golden golden nugget.
Couple of Rick Hendrick dinners.
I was good for 1 win. Now you're just gonna see me flounder. I'm gonna finish 10th in the playoffs.
Yeah,
But
I
in
don't care where
reality,
you
no, I
finish in
actually
the
feel
playoffs.
I feel pretty good looking at this playoff schedule and seeing what we got. Dover, I feel like I can put together a good run there. Darlington, love the place. I've won there in the past. Watkins Glen, New Hampshire, I love New Hampshire. And Homestead, if I can figure out some sort of setup, I'm gonna need something to drop out of the sky for Homestead because I always get loose off exit. But most of those tracks, I looked at this at the beginning of the season, and I really thought I had a chance at winning the title. So I'm gonna continue with that. I still think I have a chance to win the title, and I'm gonna be driving like I belong.
Gotcha, man. Joker, Cap, would you guys like to say anything?
Yeah, definitely one of the drivers at JGR that we just kind of let slip through our fingers. And it's kind of unfortunate that he left for retirement and came back. Did you even miss a race, Jim?
2 races.
2 races?
I missed Texas, thank goodness.
Yeah, you didn't miss much. Yeah, no, just one of the drivers that we unfortunately just let slip through our fingers. And I mean, I'm happy for Jim. I'm glad he's still racing. I'm glad he hasn't chosen to retire yet, but I'd be even more glad if he was still in the 11. But that's just a me thing.
Joker.
He's a good driver. Someone who really focuses on the intermediate and the shorter tracks, and that's basically what all the tracks are in the playoffs. So you can really make a case for him to win Darlington. He showed a lot of pace there in season 3, I believe. So you can make a case for him. As a competitor, you really don't want him in the Final Four, but you can't really be mad if he does make it, right? So
Gotcha, man. Thank you for your time. As we will be moving on to the driver in the 5th spot, the first spot below the cut line. Pretty popular driver in my eyes. He is a driver for Team Penske. In the 2 car, we have Chibi the Champ. Came into the league right before the season started, and is quite fast, to say the least. Just has been thrown bad luck throughout the season, I believe. Unable to capture a win, but if the timing's right and if the luck is there with him, I believe he can probably win a race during the playoffs here.
Yeah, he made a full-on video. If y'all remember this, the video of the Coca-Cola 600 win that slipped out of his grasp. He had that thing won. Him or Bean, they were that fast. Penske, I don't know if it was Heredia or if it was just the pure pace that those guys had brought, but they were so fast at Charlotte, and they've been fast. Chibi won the preseason race at Chicagoland, and I don't know what happened to that pace. He was fast, but just not as fast as he was in the preseason race. It's crazy to look over there and see -4. He's been up front all season long. It's just a testament to how good this Cup Series field is that he wasn't able to be above the cut line to start the playoffs.
A lot of that has to do with luck. You mentioned the Coke 600. You mentioned Chicagoland in the preseason. I've been in a lot of parties with Chibi during this season, and it seems like the guy has just had absolutely abysmal luck. So he's had the speed, he's had the pace, but, when cautions fall, you can't control that. And that's been his downfall, really. He's been there, he's been in contention. It's just a matter of stuff that's out of his control. So, again, I mentioned the Golden Horseshoe with somebody else, but I think it was YB Beta. Chibi's another one of those guys who's been quietly really good. And I think, playoffs is a different season, different beast, different animal than the regular season. If he can get a few things to fall his way, he's a threat.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the only Cup drivers that I haven't had an issue with this season. So yeah, 8 top fives, 3 DNFs at I believe probably tracks where he could have finished inside the top five or had a say in the finish. So and he's really been good on the mile and a halves, right? Really good at Charlotte, really good at Chicagoland, and the finale's Homestead. So if he can potentially win Watkins Glen, a road course, he showed speed at Mid Ohio. I wouldn't count Chibi out either. That's what I was saying earlier. There's just 5 to 6 guys that you can write in and say, well, you can't be. That's not a bad pick for the championship for. So and potentially we don't know what his off-season plans are for Penske. Carrying the legacy of Heredia in the two. I think he's doing well, but Heredia is a driver who wins championships, so he's going to have to take another step if he wants to do that.
Yeah, fortunately, Chibi, I do actually. He's one of the few drivers that I do know in the Cup Series. I've had like actual on-track interactions with him, and he definitely the mile and a halves are going to be where he wants to get his win. I mean, if he can sneak a win in, maybe at the Glen or possibly Dover, great. But Darlington is kind of going to be his bread and butter for this playoffs. It's going to be the race that he wants to win. And honestly, yeah, he's got one hell of a legacy to carry with the 2-car, and it's actually he's not even in the 2-car anymore. He's in the 12, but still.
True. Forgot about that myself. Any other thoughts from you guys before we move on to the 6th driver?
I think I'm good.
Gotcha. We have first-time winner in the Cup Series, driving the number 3 of Always Eric for Chip Ganassi, Richard Childress Racing. -7 below the cut. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
That's a lot of damage on that car.
Yeah, look at that car. That was a race winner, by the way. That's Michigan. That was Michigan where he won, and he was fast. He was in that top 3 pack pretty much the entire race, and I saw him a whole bunch up front at Chicagoland. I think this guy's finding his stride, guys. I think Eric is finding his stride and finding it at the right time as we enter the playoffs. Only 7 points below the cutoff. Going into Dover, I don't know how fast he is there, but if he's going to put in a little practice and start chipping away at that cut line, I think you'll see him up front pretty soon.
His brother, Dylan, who just unfortunately left the league for personal reasons, is one of the most meticulous guys when it comes to setups. I've got a feeling that Eric talks to him a lot about what it takes to get up front in league races, what kind of adjustment you need to get X, Y, and Z out of the car for a short run and long run. There's a lot of good racing etiquette and intelligence out of that house. So I've got a feeling that, whether or not he always agrees with people in the Discord is one thing, but never never short them on the racecraft and the intelligence that they have. Dylan's a great racer. I think Eric has taken, or Dizzy has taken a step after Dylan, and we'll be leaning on him a bit through this playoff run.
Unfortunately, I have very little to say. It's another case of I haven't really raced with him. I think I've done one race, and it was the Coke 300 in a different league. He had pace. He was keeping up with Chibi and JoJo that entire race, but the main thing I think that's going to go after him is his internet. That's kind of what killed him in that other league race. But other than that, I don't really have much else to say.
Yeah, I was one of those people who dueled with Eric at Michigan. So, yeah, he's one of those that we all know will put probably more laps in than anyone, especially at the road courses, right? Won at Charlotte, or excuse me, won at Sonoma in the Truck Series and put a lot of laps in there. And I believe he might have a chance at the Watkins Glen race coming up. He was asking 2 months ago what times I was running, and I told him I don't practice for races 4 months in advance. So if he's been trying to circle that race, I think that race is his best opportunity to get a win, right? And if you win a race and you're a playoff driver, you're automatically in the Final Four. So I think that's his best chance, and we'll see if he can get it done.
Look, there was a season not too long ago where he made a bonsai move into the bus stop in the Xfinity Series. I think it might have been season 3. And everyone in the booth, including myself, was just absolutely just awestruck over the move that he was able to make and complete the multiple on the guys entering the bus stop. It was something that we had not seen, didn't even think was possible, and unfortunately a couple laps later he had an incident that took him out of contention, but the move that he made in the bus stop was one that would have put him into the next round in the Xfinity Series. As you mentioned, I think he's going to have a focus on Watkins Glen, but we know that there's a few other people that think that Watkins Glen is their strong suit and may take advantage of that. But, being that it is that Watkins Glen is in the playoffs, that's going to be something that he's going to look forward to. I mean, he might even turn 1,000 laps there in preparation because, you want to do good at your bread and butters, and that is going to be one track that he's going to be very, very hard to beat in.
Gotcha. I do think the road courses have been Eric's strong suit throughout the season, like getting that win in the Truck Series at Sonoma. I think he's just that guy when it comes down to those road courses. He's a sleeper pick for sure to make this Final Four, in my opinion. For most people, it doesn't seem very likely, but Eric has had that speed this season that I've honestly haven't seen before because I'm still kind of new to the league in a way. This is my second full-time season. But Eric is fast, and people had their doubts, and I do believe that he has proved them wrong. As we will wrap that up and move on to the 7th driver. Coincidentally, Eric's team owner, Brody, for Chip Ganassi, Richard Childress Racing, in that 42 car, -8 below the cut.
Also a ton of damage on his car.
Yeah,
I don't know where these cars have been, but they've been through some terrible accidents prior to racing out the rest of these races.
Whoever got these pictures should probably try and look for a new job.
Oh, well, I would
Thank
have
God we're not
to
paid
say,
to be here.
I would have to say, find a game that actually has a photo mode. But anyways, Brody, going back to him, he was scared he wasn't going to make the playoffs. He was really looking for that win at Martinsville and wasn't able to get it done. But he was able to get just enough points, get himself into playoffs. So I don't think he has any wins this season yet. Does not. But he has 6 top 5s, 1 stage win. He is fast, and he loves the short tracks. I look forward to seeing what he can do this week at Iowa. I think he's going to be someone to contend with.
Well, I mean,
sorry,
one thing,
Dover. I meant Dover.
Yeah, the one thing that works for Brody is he is ungodly good at Darlington. His battles with Heredia are, bar none, some of the best finishes that we've had in this league. And if he makes that race, look out. He'll lock himself in that race alone. Like, he doesn't even have to race Dover, doesn't have to race Watkins Glen or New Hampshire. Like, he'll one and done it at Dover, or Darlington. He's just that good. I'll put the house on it. he could win that race walking away.
Yeah, Brody's just one of those guys. You look at him and you can't help but smile and just hope he wins it all. You look at him and you think he's really just deserved what he's gotten. He's a proven winner, 10 wins in the Cup Series alone, and he's just one of the feel-good guys. Definitely the fan favorite to win the championship.
Yeah, he's another guy that, as we just said, you can make a case for making the Final Four. I think he has the best case out of everyone that's seventh on below, in my opinion. Because he can win Dover. He was really competitive in season 2. He was really competitive at Darlington. He won Darlington before. Watkins Glen, he's not really the best road course racer, but chips can fall his way, and he can be up front there. And then New Hampshire as well, another shorter track where he's been relatively good at. So you can still make a case for Brody to make it. And then Homestead, I believe he's one of the ones who's been pushing for a Homestead finale in the admin team. So as a competitor, I wouldn't want him in the Final Four either, right? But yeah, he's a good driver and good leader over at CGR.
And it's got to be said that he's one of the cleanest drivers, still to this day in the Cup Series. One of the guys, like, if I ever get in a run-in with him, it's always by accident. He's never trying to move me out of the way. He's never trying to, I don't think he's tried to move really anyone out of the way except for Heredia at Bristol that one season. That might be the only time I've seen him make an aggressive move, and you got to give him props because throughout everything, it seems like hot heads can get the best of all of us. Hadn't gotten to Brody yet.
Yeah, Brody has been my team owner for a couple of seasons. When I first made my return back to the league, he saw me at the one free agent race, and shortly after, I got an offer to drive the one car, which unfortunately didn't end up how I'd enjoy it too, so I dropped down to Xfinity. But Brody's always been there for me with these kind of things, and I'm gonna be here with him, and I do believe that he can make that Final Four. He's got a couple of his strong shoot tracks ahead of him. Especially, I believe Brody is one of the quickest guys at short tracks with that wheel, stuff like that. Easier to save tires, I believe. But nonetheless, Brody is definitely one of my favorites to make a Final Four. And moving on to a driver tied with him, also one of Dalatour's old drivers in the old number 4, we have Nobes 55 for Stewart Haas Racing. Minus 8 below the cut, and I believe it should only be right, and we should go to Dalatour first for his thoughts.
Look, if I can beat him, he ain't got a shot. So, no, I'm messing around. Nobes is one of them guys that he's sneaky but very, very good. And one of my good pals in this game, in this league, he can get it done anywhere. Sometimes just needs the chips to fall the right way, but when it comes down to it, you can never count this guy out. As far as you think that he is down and out, he's still punching. And that's one of the things that I genuinely appreciate about him is that it doesn't matter what happens, he'll always get over it. He'll always be there when it matters. And I think that, with the schedule that we've got in the playoffs, this is one of those times where you can see Nobes again in the Cup Series in the Final Four.
Yeah, this guy is the king of Auto Club. Let's just get that under control right now. Joker's fast there. YB Beta is very fast there. This guy right here, he pretty much owns that place. Nobes is incredible on those sort of tracks. And, I mean, if you recollect this, he won Homestead Miami Speedway off a strategy just a couple seasons ago. Watch out if that 4-car can get there to Homestead because he might just steal one from this field.
He's extremely fast there, too. That's
Very
one of the
fast.
things.
Oh, yeah.
like I said, sneaky but good. If he can point his way in, which will be a tough task as it is with the Cup Series roster in the playoffs. If he even gets to Homestead, he might be a favorite. As much of an underdog as he is, he could easily be a favorite.
I agree.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the guys who, again, haven't really had much on-track experience with him, but from 2 seasons ago, I believe it was, where I just went on a tear commentating every Xfinity and Cup race that I could. Nose was definitely one of those names that I was bringing up every race because he was just constantly one of the front runners. And if he can just have a bit of luck, we can definitely see him going into Homestead as a Final Four threat.
Yeah, I feel like just echoing the same message that you guys have been saying. All it takes is one race win, and he's done it before. Did it in season 2. He was in a must-win in the playoffs, won it at Auto Club. He can do it again here. There obviously isn't that 2-mile racetrack in the playoffs, but the playoffs are known as a reset, right? You've seen Tony Stewart do that incredible run in 2011, wasn't even looked at as a championship favorite, then went on to win half of the 10 races, right? So I feel like the same case can be made for Nobes.
Yeah, from what I've seen, Nobes is pretty quick at most tracks, but it's also one of those guys with that terrible luck as well. But he is indeed the king of Auto Club. I'm pretty sure he's won the last 4 or 5, or all 5 of the last Auto Club races in the Cup Series.
I think Joker won one of them.
Yeah,
Stupid number. It's an absolute stupid number.
He won season 2 because that was when we had 30 races. He won season 3, won season 4, and then won season 5. So he's on a 4-race win streak.
Golly.
And I'm the only person not named him that's won there recently, and that was all the way in season 2, and that was at least over a year and a half ago.
That's just an unbelievable stat, honestly, with Nobes and that track, man.
It's just funny because Auto Club's it's like a draft track. He's done it with normal draft. He's done it with low draft. He's probably done it with high draft. He's probably done it blindfolded. He's won it every single time he's gone there.
Nobes is definitely the Auto Club king in my eyes, and many others. But,
he is the Auto Club.
He is Auto Club.
He is the track owner of Auto Club.
But anyway, moving on to the driver in the 9th spot, Joker's teammate, the Ghost 0241. And that beautiful 24 car, 10 points behind the cut with Hendrick Motorsports. And like we did with Nobes, I believe it's only right to go to Joker first for this one.
Yeah, I feel like Ghost is another one like Nobes where, Ghost didn't get the win, but Ghost has been inside the top 10 pretty often. The top 5s may not show and pop out, but been in that 6 to 10 range for majority of the season. Now, I think with the playoffs, he has work to do. But he's currently on DayZ with Mason and Kush, so that's not going to happen, right? But yeah, Ghost is one of those. I feel like he missed an opportunity tonight in Sunny D. They raced Darlington, and I feel like that could have been a good help to him where he's in need to run top 3, top 2, right? 6th through 10th with the drivers above him isn't going to cut it if he wants to move on to the next round. So I think he has the ability to do it. It's just, will he be willing to do it? That's the main question.
I don't think he's really that guy. He's not a guy who's gonna run you full dirty to get it. I've gotten messages after races that I didn't deserve where he felt he did me wrong, and I appreciate guys like that show some sort of candor, some sort of class. But when it comes to it, Honor is on the table big. So I'm not doubting him. That's for sure. But I feel like he's going to run everyone honorably, which I can't say about everybody.
Yeah, unfortunately, Honor isn't really going to get you too far in terms of wins, let alone championships. But it's nice to see someone out there who actually has it. It's definitely a nice change of pace, but sometimes you just got to put the foot down. You have to just let it all out and do whatever you can to get a win.
Yeah, I think Ghost. I think he's gonna have to have that kind of clutch moment where he just finds himself in position and pushes someone for a win at maybe Darlington or New Hampshire or Watkins Glen. But I just, even though it's only 10 points below, the speed just hasn't been there for him on short tracks and tracks that require a lot of braking. So Darlington and New Hampshire, those are going to be pretty difficult for him. He's a controller driver, and he drives cleanly. He just sometimes makes more mistakes than those guys on wheels, and just those little mistakes are going to be enough to knock him out of the playoffs. So I think he's going to have to find a win somewhere in this list of 4 tracks before we get to Homestead.
Gotcha, man. I believe Ghost hasn't had the greatest luck this season. He is pretty fast, he's pretty consistent, but just gets caught up in other people's messes, from what I understand and from what I've seen throughout this season.
Yeah, and I love to see that he's on Hendrick Motorsports. I think that's his favorite team. So him and Sharp, both great buddies, both being on that team. That was a great pickup from Riley and Joker, and very honorable for those guys because that's Sharp's last season, and Ghost, I'm sure he wanted to race with his buddy one more time.
And that just helps Hendrick's team chemistry to just exceptional levels at that point. Like, these two guys have, like, honestly, they seem like lifelong friends at this point. They've been friends for a countless amount of years. Probably around the amount of years that I've been alive, if I had to guess. I am 19. But it seems like their bond has been a lifetime bond. But moving on to our final driver, but with a note here, the Ghost is actually minus 11, and Alan is minus 10. The points don't show it, so Jim is not at fault at all for that. But
Sad.
Jim is 100%.
Yeah, I'm at fault for the crappy pictures and the wrong points.
No, you're fine. But the points were made after the tiebreaker, so
Yeah.
That's how it is. The points weren't updated. It's okay. It's just a minor inconvenience. But moving on to LD Allen, the team owner for Roush Fenway Keselowski, racing in his final season as a team owner, minus 10 below the cut. Boys, thoughts?
This guy, he impressed me at Martinsville. I will say that. I did not expect the speed out of that. He got second in that race. Probably deserved third if I'm being completely honest. But he didn't even run. He didn't even run the 9 that I thought I was basically giving my setup away. I thought he was going to run the 9. No, he ran a 7 and was still able to put down 19 4s and 19 3s. That's incredible, really. And he is one of the big content creators on the in the HPL. So I got a lot of respect for him and hope he goes far.
Nice.
Captain?
Allen is definitely one of those guys where you look at in the playoffs and kind of you really question it. I mean, he just doesn't seem like that fast of a driver. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the playoff spot, but I'm like, Sharp deserved it, Mike G deserved it. But he found his way into the playoffs, and that's really all that matters. I'm not entirely sure how the upcoming tracks look for him, as, again, kind of proving how useless I am outside of the truck series. for making comments and whatnot, but it's just another guy who I have not had that much track time with. And then the very little I've had, it hasn't been exactly amazing, but I don't really have much room to comment.
Yeah, I feel like he's in that same boat as the Ghost, right? Guy that's been pretty consistent. I think that if he got that 10-point penalty, put him in that tiebreaker with Sharp, the average finish of 9.4. Don't ask why I know that, but yeah, just inside that 6 to 10 range. But same argument as Ghost. You're gonna have to 6 to 10 will not cut it. He's solid at every track, but he needs probably one or two of those tracks to be really good. Top 5, top 3 race winning pace. And I don't think I've personally seen a race where Allen has been a top 3 car, maybe besides Martinsville, and I didn't even race that. So, work to do, minus 10, but he's going to have to step up his game to make something happen, right? Try and get into the mix and hope someone lags out, a little luck falls his way.
Yeah, I just feel like Allen hasn't really been dealt the best hand this season. He's a pretty consistent guy from seasons past in other leagues. There's even here that I've seen. He's still searching for that first career cup win as well. And I do believe that in order for him to make the Final Four, he will have to get that first career win within these next 4 races. Like we've all said, he's consistent, but like Joker said, those 6 to 10s ain't gonna cut it. That's just how it goes. That's not even a shot to anybody at this point, but it's just the way of the road. You need to get those.
Sorry, I have to ask, just because he has a lot of things on his plate. He does league racing, he does content creation, he does admin, he's a team owner here. These things have to add up on top of him, where he's not able to get his practice in, where he's not able to talk to his teammates and ask them what they're doing. He reached out to me a couple days ago about Martinsville, and I gave him all my secrets, but he just seems like he has a lot going on, that winning a championship, you have to be pretty focused, it seems.
Yeah. When it comes down to that kind of stuff, that I do agree that will add on and stuff like that. And then there's also just he's an adult. He has a real job, a 9 to 5. He doesn't have that time that others do. Like most of the guys in the league are quite young. They're in school still. They get out at like 2 o'clock. They have the rest of the day till like 2 to 7 for most guys, or even to like 8:45. Allen doesn't have that. I don't know when he gets off work, but he doesn't have that same amount of time these other guys do, being younger than him. And with the way Allen has still made the playoffs, there's still some props to be given there. It just because there's a lack of practice that is out of his hands, and it's also just at the same time there's a lot of people who don't want to spend that time practicing because of how old the game is. And I believe with that kind of stuff, it just adds on with like what Jim said, the admin in ARC. I believe he's co-owner. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a big server right there. What else? Yeah, the team owner stuff. Being an adult as a whole, uploads regularly, which he may or may not be putting more effort into. So that would be quite something. That'll be quite nice to see come out from Allen, and I hope it helps him grow. But like I mentioned, he will have to get that first win in order to make that Final Four, because all these guys in the Cup Series, all these guys in the top 10 of points in the playoffs are all capable of winning races. It's just a matter of the hand they're dealt, in my honest opinion. I love Allen. He's one of my closest friends, I'd have to think. But I do believe in him. We'll say that. But moving on to the overview. Here is the full playoff picture here. Like Fistbusters, 51 above. Joker and YB, 5 above. Jim, 4 above. Chibi, 4 below, as well as Eric, 7 below. Brody, 8, as well as Nobes, 8 below. Ghost, actually minus 10, or actually minus 11, and Alan minus 10, with the 5 tracks of Dover, Darlington, Watkins Glen, New Hampshire, and Homestead, Miami Speedway coming up in these playoffs. Boys, give your full thoughts on all these playoffs and how you guys think they'll go. Just to wrap it up here.
Looking forward to it. I think it's going to be one of the best playoffs we've had yet. And I also wanted to bring up, this wasn't really put in here, but right now the owner points. So the Cup Series owner points, Joe Gibbs Racing is leading Hendrick Motorsports by 197. Stuart Haas is 682 back of Hendrick. So that is that for Cup. Let's find Xfinity. Xfinity is Penske out front by a healthy margin of 78 points above Stuart Haas. 84 above Colleague, and 100 above Joe Gibbs. Going to truck owner points. Find the right one. Yep, it is KBM HRE, which is 200 points above GMS, 201 above Nice, and 316 above Rayum Brothers. Then, of course, the overall. Let me find those. Overall team points. Joe Gibbs Racing, the Soaps' squad, leading right there over Hendrick Motorsports, 443 points, 814 above Team Penske, 1,205 points above Stuart Haas, 1,254 above Trackhouse, and 1,702 above RFK.
Anyone else? Cap, Doubt, or Joker? Any closing thoughts for tonight's stream?
Certainly, this season's playoffs are going to be just wild. We have the potential to see a new champion in realistically all three of the series. Maybe Trucks is probably going to be the one that's pretty set in stone on we might know who's going to be the champion, but between Xfinity and the Cup Series, it's more of just a coin flip on who's going to become the champion in that series.
Yeah, I think with Trucks and Xfinity, it's more of a wild card for all of the 4 championship contender positions. With Cup, at least, I think that there is at least 1, maybe even 2 positions that are at least solidified right now. I mean, we can kind of pretty much say that Fistbuster can open a tub of Vaseline and just go at it for the next 4 weeks before Homestead and then try again there. But, you know, that's why you run the races. I mean, 51 points is a pretty good cushion, and we're going to tracks where, in the Cup Series at least, you know, you're going to need to keep your momentum up. You're going to keep speed up. New Hampshire is really the one that I think would throw a lot of people for a loop because it is a short track, but it has a lot of speed characteristics to it. Watkins Glen, I think, you know, is another one of those ones that, you know, it's not, I don't think, as much a wild card as New Hampshire, but, you know, I feel like Xfinity and Truck, you know, one of the 2 of the guys that are favorites are going to show up and make it to the championship round. Cup, it's almost a definite one of the favorites is going to, but it's not a guarantee. That's why we run these races, and I'm excited to see it firsthand, really secondhand, because let's be honest, I'm not going to be anywhere close to the lead, but hey, at least I'm there. So participation trophies, if we're giving them out, I want a gold one.
Aye, Captain.
Yeah. I will say, since I was not here for the Truck and Xfinity portion, I will give my championship 4 picks. I think I'll go Trucks first. I think Shake and Jack move on, which I think most people have them in your final 4. I think Sikkim moves on, and then the final spot I think will go to Always Freedom. With Xfinity, I will say I think Heredia obviously moves on. I think he wins Iowa and just gets it over with, right? I think JoJo moves on. I think he's been second best to Heredia. Would not count him out at Homestead, Miami. Third spot, I feel like there's a bunch of names you can go with there. I'm going to go Speed Racer. I think he's been up there enough. And then the final spot, I'll go out on a limb and say Electric wins New Hampshire and locks himself in the final spot with the run race suspension.
Not bad. Those are some pretty good picks from you. Anyone we missed?
Did Captain go?
I did, yes. My
Okay.
remarks were brief.
Gotcha.
Gotcha, man.
Yep. Thank you guys for coming and doing this while majority of the admins weren't here for the beginning. So.
Indeed. And,
We love doing it.
I've got nothing better to do on a work night.
And apologies to the lateness of the stream. Ran into some technical difficulties prior, but I'm glad we got this off. It's always fun doing these little streams for the league. Can't complain. Had a good night after work, of course. And we'll see you guys later.